Brian Windhorst is right next to me. Adrian Wojnarowski, our Ultimate NBA Insider. He'll be with us shortly. Brian Windhorst, let's get right back to it. So you've heard what everybody has to say. Just remind our audience of how serious and dire this situation appears to be in the eyes of the NBA right now.
Yeah, I mean, this is the biggest threat the NBA has faced from a health standpoint, maybe ever. Today is an example. They had a conference call with owners. I was talking to people in the league. They don't remember this ever happening. Owners meet 3 times a year as scheduled. It's hard to get billionaires on the phone. The fact that they had to do that, just that fact alone tells you how out of character and off the grid that this situation is. But I'm going to just say that I know that a lot of people are really upset. And I know there's a lot of people that are panicking and things like that. Let's look to what's happened elsewhere in the world. In China, they shut their CBA, their Chinese Basketball Association, down at the end of January. They have taken 2 months to deal with this crisis. They wanted everybody to remain indoors, to quarantine. Their cases have come down, flattened out, life is returning to normal, and they are now calling players back and intending to begin basketball again in the next couple of weeks. This is obviously going to affect a lot of people. It's going to affect a lot of people who have tickets who want to go to games. But ultimately, they're going to take the steps that they were shown, and we're going to end up being okay. We just have to get through it.
Woj, when you hear what Wendy just said, it calls for the potential of a delay in the ending of the season as possibly a worst-case scenario. How receptive is the league to that, in your estimation, considering the fact that there was an owner just weeks ago who talked about how the league should start in December and end after June? What do you make of that, Woj?
Well, Atlanta's president, Steve Koonin, he's talked about that idea for years and brought it up again at the Sloan Conference. There hasn't been support for it, but what you're hearing now and what needs to happen is there's going to have to be a lot of cooperation around the league right now. If games do get lost with how to salvage this season, this is a year where the league's going to lose a lot of money. Going back to Daryl Morey's comments, what that caused the league with their relationship with China, and then now the money that's going to be lost here. And one group that really hasn't been a big part of this conversation that's got a call with the league tomorrow, the league's general managers, their presidents, the people who deal every day with the players. And I think they're going to have to be involved in this. They know more about this league day to day and how it operates and how competitively some changes in the rest of the season might play out. They know that better than their owners do. So there's a lot of people who still have to be a part of this conversation because this is uncharted territory for the league, and there's going to be more difficult decisions that have to be made.
Wendy, we've heard on many, many occasions the commissioner and league officials allude to the partnership that exists between them and the players. How much, if any, input at all will the players have in decisions that are being made? And if not them, whom?
Yeah, I think one of the things that is happening in the league right now is there is a strong feeling of cooperation between the commissioner's office and the players. There is a real, equity that exists there between those two sides. And so I really believe that they'll work together on this. They will rely on their crisis situation and get through it and align. But I think the players, as LeBron showed over the weekend, they weren't really even thinking about this. Matt Barnes was saying earlier today, he went to a birthday party for Draymond Green over the weekend. The word coronavirus was not mentioned one time. Yet here we are just a few days away from having radical changes to the league. So I think the players are going to rely on the leadership of the league, which is why the league's got to spend some time to get it right.
I know this much. I'm relying on you and Woj. Way to bring it, y'all. Really, really appreciate it. In Oklahoma City, Donovan Mitchell, you see him right there, star for the Utah Jazz, getting set to take on the Oklahoma City Thunder tonight. As it currently stands right now, Utah and OKC would meet in the first round of the playoffs. And obviously that brings me to my next guest, Royce Young, covering Oklahoma City Thunder for us. He joins us right now. You were just at head coach Billy Donovan's pregame news conference. What did he say about the coronavirus and the impact that it's having on his team?
Stephen A., he acknowledged how everybody's pretty nervous about this situation and just the bizarre fact of the scene and how it was set up pregame with reporters backed away 10 feet from a podium. Quinn Snyder, it was the same thing. And if you just look around the arena, Stephen A., and just the way that this is kind of unfolding, it's a weird situation. You know, Steven Adams had to alter his pregame routine. Instead of sitting in the locker room like he normally would, he had to come into a media room, sit down at a podium. The first thing he did is he looked over at the Thunder's PR guy and said, "Has this been wiped down?" And he said it with all sincerity, and he was told, yes, it has been very thoroughly. But, you know, one of the things as you look around this arena is just the inability to really contain this with fans in it. You know, I just talked to a ball boy that was rebounding for Donovan Mitchell and Danilo Gallinari, and I asked him, did they tell you to do anything with the basketballs? Were you supposed to wash your hands or sanitize the ball? And he was like, no, I didn't have to do anything. If you look out in the crowd, you see fans throwing a little soft basketball, one by one, going all around, taking turns, just touching the same ball. You see players sitting off to the side in the same seats that fans will sit in watching film. So you can kind of feel the way that it's going to be difficult to contain this as long as fans are in the arena.
Great insight. Really appreciate it. Royce Young, our reporter, our Thunder reporter, live in Oklahoma City right now. Thank you so much. Tonight at 10:30 on ESPN and the ESPN app, Zion Williamson and the New Orleans Pelicans are in Sacramento to take on the Kings. Both teams are chasing the Grizzlies for the number 8 seed in the Western Conference. ESPN Pelicans reporter Andrew Lopez is with us in Sacramento as we speak. He joins us now. Andrew, you were at the team shoot-around this morning. What were they saying about the possibility of playing in empty arenas due to the coronavirus?
Well, Zion Williamson walked in, kind of looked around and figures, oh, this is how it's going to be now because of the press conferences, and sat down and he said, it's not going to be fun, but he understands why they're doing it. Alvin Gentry tried to have a little bit of fun with it. He marked out 9 or 8 feet on his cell phone before getting up on the podium. But they also understand. Nobody really likes this situation. They understand that the fans are the lifeblood of what they do. Brandon Ingram talked about having to come up with his own energy now because there's not going to be any fans in the arena. So the Pelicans, they understand what's going on right now, but they're not necessarily happy about it.
That's Pelicans reporter Andrew Lopez in Sacramento. Thanks so much, Andrew. The coronavirus is affecting events all over the sports world. For more on that, here's Kevin Nagandi. Dallas Mavericks against the Denver Nuggets tonight. As you see, hand sanitizers are being handed out to fans in the arena. Not just soap, not just going to the bathroom. Hand sanitizer being given out to everybody. It's not a bad idea, actually, not by a long shot. Let's bring in former Memphis Grizzlies and New York Knicks head coach David Fizdale. When you first learned of the virus and the impact that it was having on the NBA, coach, what went through your mind?
Wow, that this is really happening during my lifetime, and just really can't believe that we're at a place now that we have to cancel large sporting events, big money-making sporting events, big money-making concerts, things like that. The thought that those things are now either being played without a crowd or being canceled is pretty overwhelming.
As a coach in the National Basketball Association, do you agree with the league's decision to make sure that they're not having any fans? At least the Golden State Warriors have already made the decision in San Francisco, obviously, that they're not going to have fans at their game because of the health organization and the decisions that they made. What are your thoughts about that?
I do agree with it, Stephen A. And this is why it's bigger than basketball right now. You're talking about a pandemic. You're talking about something that can easily be spread. We see how fast this stuff has ran through other countries. We can't be arrogant enough to think that we're immune to that. We have as many, if not the most, large gatherings than any other country in the world. And so for us to be diligent and cautious, I think, is the right approach. We can't risk our fans' health, and we also cannot risk our players and our staffers' health.
Coach, as an assistant in Miami, you used to coach LeBron James. You're very close with him. We all know this. His original position was he's not playing if it's not going to be in front of the fans. He backtracked on that considerably, obviously, as he's learned more about this situation. As a coach, what would you tell players at this particular moment in time in regards to what's transpiring before us?
Well, one, you want to educate them on how to stay healthy, right? Just the basics, I think, is don't assume that players know how to keep themselves healthy in scenarios like this. That would be the first thing. But the second thing would be, especially if I'm a team contending for the playoffs or contending for home court or any of that, is keeping the mission in mind and how important every game is, regardless of the fact that fans are there watching or not watching. You still have a body of work that you've put together over the course of the season to put you in this position. You can't let a situation like this right now knock you out of your focus, and now all of a sudden you start losing games because of the conditions.
Coach, always appreciate you, man. Thank you so much for being on the show. You take care of yourself. See you soon.
Absolutely, Steve.